Cut it out, Bo. Go downstairs. Go. I'll be down in a minute.
You know how it is, like starting up. It's hard as shit.
Whether they're good, bad, or ugly, getting the message out there that people aren't just like these superstars or shitbags. Like, there's a point behind everybody, what they're doing. I'm a fucking moron. Mike.
All right, guys. Welcome to another episode. With you as always, me, Ben. Today, I got a special guest on. We're choosing to kind of keep it quiet, but it is the account. You guys know it from around the Army, from the military as the Fratty Guard. Thank you for coming on today with us.
Thanks for having me, man. I know I've been dodging you and pushing you off, so we finally were able to get some time on the calendar and do it.
Yeah, we were both, between all the stuff going on, we've been trying to link up. We finally made it work. Today we're going to kind of just do a little different. We're going to talk about stuff going on and about his page and what makes the world tick. So can you talk to us a little bit about first what made you start this page? Because for those that don't know it, I guess it's a lot of meme content, some hot takes on the military, what's going on. But a lot of us have these feelings. That's why he has so many followers. That's why a lot of people pull the memes and send them to each other in stupid signal chats. What made you start that up?
Yeah. So the page, I guess it still is, but definitely at the start, it was sort of tailored to a National Guard like audience. I had recently come back from a deployment, and I hadn't gone back to my regular job yet, so I had some downtime, and I don't know. I think I don't even really remember exactly what it was. I didn't really even know how to make memes. I kind of had to like learn how to make them and download like the apps that have the templates and whatnot. But I've always been kind of a creative, sort of goofball, and memes are for someone who's not funny or clever or smart enough to like write a full book, but they can capture like a moment of a funny joke in a meme. It's kind of perfect. I don't know. It was an interesting time. It was in 2020, like right around when COVID was kicking off, and the Guard had been called, activated for a number of things, for like riots and COVID stuff. And I don't know. I guess, it was divine inspiration. That's all I can say. God touched me and said, you need to start making memes. So I've been making, memes, for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. Damn. And, now as the page has kind of grown, and my kind of, what I do in the Army and my civilian job and things have changed, like the page sort of matches that. So I've actually tried to kind of branch out from just sort of like Guard or reserve memes, or even just military memes, and also kind of touch on like, more broad reaching themes like office stuff. I try not to get into politics, because the second you make a meme or statement that anyone remotely perceives as somehow taking a stance on something, like half the audience is pissed off, and you lose followers, which I don't know, maybe is a cowardly way to to look at it. But so it's been a journey.
Yeah, I just talked to another guy who he runs another kind of meme page, and he's starting to branch out and stuff, but his is pretty niche to cops, and he kind of found that he had to branch out towards other people if you're really wanting to make a bigger impact. But he did find, because he is kind of what you were talking about, he does take those stances, and he may gain 50,000 followers in 6 months, but he's also losing 2,000 to 5,000 followers in those months. Because
it's not just that; it's also like people in your in your DMs, and who like will write walls of text about how, their opinion or how you're wrong or how like whatever. And it's like,
Are you getting those?
um, well, because I don't post that much political stuff. I will say I do get a lot of sort of random DMs. I'd say I have the same like 50 to 100 people,
Yeah.
followers, who are like constantly in my DMs. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, like, yeah. But
I feel bad messaging you, clogging it up too with them.
well,
Damn.
and my thing is I'm kind of OCD where I'll pretty much
You,
respond to most messages. I don't like to leave people hanging.
hmm And you don't want to have all that in your inbox. I don't like looking at that number and you're like, what the hell is happening?
Right. Yeah. So that annoys me too. So I want to get it, cleaned out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a lot of DMs. The page is, a lot of loyal followers. I'd say in some respects it has kind of a cult following, which is cool. And yeah, someone asked me a question. A lot of people reach out about like sort of like career advice, whether it's civilian career stuff or like military stuff. And so somebody sent me like a wall of text asking something, and then they said, hey, like, I'm sorry to like essentially what you said, sorry to clog up your DMs. I know you're a famous page, and I just like laughed like that anyone would think that the page was like famous in any way, but um, yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah. It's, that is so, that is so many messages. I can't wrap my head around that, like trying to sort through that kind of junk. Do you find, are you getting mostly positive support though, like through all this,
Yeah,
or?
I've expected, and again, if you don't take any sort of stances, then you're generally more safe. But no, it's overwhelmingly positive, and I'm kind of surprised that I've never run into any like. I guess there's like been a few people I've blocked just because they were like sort of annoying, but no, yeah, it's not like I get a lot of hate or anything. It's and I will say, I don't know how long, or if you like, how long you've kind of been in the military meme like world or whatever on Instagram, but back in 2020 when I started the page, and the year after that, it was a much more toxic environment.
Oh,
Where
really?
yeah, the memes were like meaner. Like pages were the way you kind of got a followership was to like essentially be a troll and like call people out and like do all this shit. And it's thankfully it seems to have gotten a lot better, and people are generally just not, they're not assholes the way they were a few years ago. And I don't know, maybe that's because certain pages are no longer around. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty supportive.
You know what's weird? I think there was this weird shift where, from when I joined in 2015. So, my first 5 years, 6 years, it was a lot of bashing on like just regular guys, I guess. Like the stereotypical meme of, a new private starter pack, and it's like a web belt, boots and jeans and a,
Sure.
grunt style shirt, whatever. Now it seems that that's kind of lost traction, and like what you're talking about, like there's neutral stances, and we mostly just capture the bullshit that's going on in the army. But what's getting a lot of heat right now is all the special forces community, like all their shit going on with Tim Kennedy, Dan Crenshaw, Rob O'Neill, like all these guys, which I guess I'd say rightfully so, because some of it is lies and it probably needs to be exposed. But it's causing this giant drama of unprofessionalism, I'd say, in that community, which is supposed to be known as like the quiet professionals. How do you feel about that? Like all that shit
Yeah,
going
I
on?
think that type of thing kind of united, the vast majority of us who aren't in those communities, in a way that's like, yeah, okay, cool, like, you were a SEAL or a Green Beret or like whatever, and you kicked indoors in the GWAT, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Like we've all heard stories. Like, do you have anything else to sort of talk about besides like that? Do you have any other value you can sort of bring to the discussion? And yeah, I don't know. I've definitely noticed that too, and I think I think those guys, especially kind of the loudmouths that go out there and sort of promote themselves and their service like that, kind of deserve to be made fun of and knocked down a peg. Because what I always thought was interesting was during the GWAT, your soft guys they tend to get like for the most part they have a lot more say over like the missions that they're going to do. They get the best, generally they have the best people, they get the best equipment, they have the best support, versus kind of like your random 19-year-old like 11 Bravo who's just told to driving this Humvee up and down the road until you get blown up so we can like find the enemy until we get attacked and then attacking them. But like that kid, those guys don't get any of the credit. Hollywood and podcasts, they're only interested in like special operations type guys, and I think that probably rightfully sort of pisses people off.
Yeah, I just interviewed a guy. He's one of my friends from high school, but we haven't talked in years, and he finally told me his story of he did National Guard for about, I think 5 years or so, something like that, 5-6 years, or I guess it was close to 8, but I can't remember how it worked out. Anyway, he tells me a story of his deployment where he went to Iraq and he was a truck driver in 2010, 2011, and he's route clearance all day because he's the front scout, so he's clearing everything. He's like, we saw a billion of them, and then he's going 20 miles an hour down these roads in the middle of nowhere. You think you're gonna get blown up every day, and you're running missions nonstop because it's the middle of that was pretty close to the height of the war.
Right.
Those guys never get credit for all the shit they did. And while it's not as sexy maybe as kicking down a door and stuff, that is hard as shit to do, and that's tolling as fuck on the mind. And it's just I never get why those guys never get the recognition they deserve.
Well, that's what I always found, like, to me, super interesting about somebody in the Guard or reserve, because I mean you can be stacking printers at like Home Depot or something, and then told, hey, you're deploying to like Iraq or Afghanistan for a year, and then so you're thrown into that, and then you're like doing route clearance or God knows what, and then you come back and you're just like, all right, go back to your regular life now. And it's like, it's such a, and to an extent, like active duty is going to deal with that too, but I feel like it's less of a transition from like one extreme to the other in such a quick time frame.
Yeah, well, you come back. I mean, I'm active. You come back, and you basically just the hardest part is reintegrating with your family, basically, and that. But you're still in the Army, so there's still a support system around you of the people you went with, hopefully, stuff like that. Whereas those guys, like you said, they're just going right back to stacking printers, and everybody's like, "Where did that guy go? Oh, he was just gone for like a year or whatever. Don't worry about it." But
yeah, there's not like granted, like I deployed like way after the height of the GWAT, so like my war experience was very different from somebody who was there in like 2007 or something like that. But for if I can't imagine coming back and then like you have no way to really talk about what you've just been through with these your like office colleagues because they have no idea, and you're just trying not to seem like you're some psycho who's gonna like crash out and shoot up the office or something. You just like you want to make sure they think, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. But like, yeah, probably struggling with like what just happened, and now I'm back here and I'm supposed to go back to normal type thing. It's got to be pretty crazy.
yeah, with I wanted to. I'm losing my mouth here. With your stuff, you kind of jumped into apparel stuff too, right? With the flag, like I know the flags are a big thing, especially with guys on orders or active guys. and I love seeing them. But how'd you find yourself jumping into that? Was it just kind of like a seize the day opportunity, or did you have a plan with that?
I never had a plan. People started asking me for merch, and I think what it started out with was, I don't see this. Well, I guess I still see it, but a lot of former Ranger types or guys still in Ranger Regiment in their Instagram bio, they'll have like the little, one or two or three in the brackets.
Yeah,
So as a joke, I was seeing that, and my page was about the National Guard, so I put NG in the brackets in my
yeah,
bio. And then to this day, I see like other people doing it. It's become a thing. But somebody had asked me like, "Hey, when are you making like, when are you doing merch for this?" And I'm like, "Oh, like okay, I guess I'll make some merch." And then it kind of just, um, it's I don't know if you do any merch, but once you go down that rabbit hole, it's like, oh, I was just going to do stickers, but like now maybe I should do like, this or that, or now this guy wants like sweatpants. So very quickly it can balloon out, and then people are like, oh, you should make like this version of it with like this logo. And um, yeah, so that's pretty much how it happened. And so I have like a few core like designs that have done well that I sell. And what I want to get going doing more of is kind of like exclusive drops where I just have like an idea for a stupid or like topical like t-shirt that I probably wouldn't sell year round, but like I'll do a drop of it if, temporarily for a week if somebody's interested in it. I want to do more of that, but yeah, like the time aspect is always kind of a pain in the ass. And then, I work with companies that help me do it at this point. When I was first doing it, I did it all myself. Now I have people that mostly do it for me. I'm sort of just a creative person behind it. Um, but you're always depending or waiting on like somebody else. Like if it's somebody who's actually going to do the logo design or doing this or that. So I'm an impatient person. So I'm like, I want to like put this up in the store like tomorrow, right now. And it's never that quick. It's usually weeks. And yeah, like I had to pause the store for a bit as I retooled it. And I had people in my DMs like every day, like, "Hey man, where's the store? When's the store coming back?" I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's coming. It's coming.
chill the fuck out. Trying to make it work.
Yeah.
I just it's funny you say that. I just bought stickers last week, right? Just in my logo, because I always wanted a cool logo. I finally saved up enough. I got a graphic artist to make me one that right there. I wanted to just make something cool that was like, I don't know, people just like that. I always like the old school traditional stuff, but I get to the point. Uh, Ordered the stickers, they're on their way, but then your mind starts going, well, shit. Should I even try a T-shirt? Like, should
Right.
I even do that kind of stuff? And it's and I started looking at the process, and it is so much. I don't get how you guys handle all this. You got, especially you. You have. Are you still National Guard, or which one?
I'm actually in the reserve now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're reserve. You have your full time job. You have family, and then you're also running all this stuff. Like that is so much to take on your plate.
Yeah, it's a lot, which is why I went to great lengths to try and get it kind of on autopilot and automated and having people do it for me. So all I had to do was say, "Hey, I wanted this logo on like this t-shirt, like go make it happen." Um the other piece of it too is the actual like economics, financial aspect of it. So since I've been selling merch, I've probably made, and like my accounting is a fucking mess, right? But I've probably brought in like in revenue over $100,000. Sort of very, very for the most part passively doing this, but in terms of actual profit, it actually feels like I mostly lose money. And I don't quite know how that works, but I never feel like I'm actually making money because the second you're getting these payments for people buying stuff, you owe all this money to all these people.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
all right, well, it's all gone now, and then it kind of starts over. So yeah,
I was talking to the Anti-Hero podcast, Tyler, and he started first apparel line, and then he used the podcast to promote it. But then he's like, "This is the worst possible way to make money. Like the profit of margin is so small, you
on
can't even like it. Yeah, for merch and stuff." He's like, the podcast became more important than he's like, I still do it, but it is not the primary anymore. Like it is just not not worth it too much. But which sucks though, because everybody likes a t-shirt. Everybody wants a damn t-shirt from something, like especially shit like this that you like. So that's hard. Do you would you say now your focus is still on content creation and like still trying to do all that, or are you kind of trying to build it to something bigger?
um that's a good question. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have like a strategic 5-year plan for the Fratty Guard. I mostly what I focus on is I just want to have more followers, and I feel like I should have way more followers than I do. I was definitely in Instagram jail for a while, where like I went like a year with basically getting no new followers.
Damn.
Yeah, just like
What'd you do?
yeah, good question. Who knows?
A lot of people's posts are getting flagged like that right now.
It seems
For
to have gotten
nothing.
better. I was just recently able to get a verification badge or whatever, which I had to pay
Mhm.
for. But I tried to do that multiple times in the past and say, look, I'm a legitimate business. There's been articles written about the page. I have a website, and they still wouldn't verify me. And then they moved to a thing where you had to it had to be tethered to an identity, so it couldn't be the Friday Guard. It had to be like Ben Lake, and you had to show your ID, and like that's how you could do it. You couldn't do it as like a anonymous LLC or business,
Oh,
which you
okay.
used to be able to do.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they let me do it recently. I had to pay like $150 a month for it. Um,
Holy shit.
yeah,
Just for the little blue check?
yeah. Well, and it they definitely there's different packages, there's different tiers. And the cheapest one is like $14 or $15 a month, but they didn't offer that one to me. I think they looked at the number of followers I had and said, we're only going to do this one for you. So I didn't have an option to do a cheaper one. And the way I looked at it, it wasn't so much about the blue check mark. I guess it kind of was, but what I cared about was having, once you're a paid customer, if something goes wrong, you can actually contact them and work with their team to like, in theory, like fix it if your page gets suspended or something. Whereas if you're just some,
Oh, I didn't know that. So
yeah,
like let's say it gets hacked or something, or somebody messes it up, they'll come in and actually help you and fix it.
well,
Or allegedly.
you'll get to a person, right? There'll be a support team versus like if you're just some random person, you're trying to send like a random email to like some some random website on the desktop or something, like meta support, hoping someone actually looks at it and gives a shit and reaches out. So I viewed it as more of like an insurance policy thing than a like the ego boost of the blue check, which it kind of is, but like it also really doesn't mean much if you're paying for it. It used to mean something when I don't even remember, but like
When
I don't
it was
know.
like 10 years ago, right? Like that's when it was like it was more just for you hit like a certain amount of followers
Yeah, it
or
was
you
something.
were,
I
yeah,
think you had to have like 10,000 followers, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
something like that. And now it's kind of like there's people that follow me that have like 8 followers, and they they have a little
The
verified
silver line.
check. So yeah, it's whatever.
With with like making all the content and stuff, are you drawing on your experiences? Like, are you would you say your experiences have created all this, or do you just find like random humor moments and put them in there, or stories, or like is it a mix of both, or how do you go
Yeah,
about
it's
that?
mostly from you know conversations I have with people, and real life things that I'm experiencing either at work or like in the military stuff that I do. Um, someone will just like say something that's funny. I'm like, "God, I could probably put that in a meme," or yeah, I just I find it very hard to take a lot of things seriously, especially in the military and especially in like the corporate environment. So to me, like it's just so easy to sort of mock everything. Um, I think at some point, and like my page would have way more followers too if I did more of the like actual typical like social media influencer creator stuff where it's like their face like in front of a video, like whether it's a reaction video or like they're actually like in the videos that they're making. I don't do a lot of that. I don't
Yeah.
do any of it. I pretty much just make memes and make stories. And I've thought about it, but like again, since I'm trying to stay anonymous, I don't exactly know how I would do that. I'd have to do it in like disguise.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd have to be one of those guys wearing like a Star Wars outfit, like oh, this is funny or whatever. But that doesn't really go with what you're doing,
yeah, I
like
mean,
using
maybe at
like
some
a
point
glow.
I'll start just, well, so that's part of it. But the other part is like, to me, it's more interesting. It's more fun if it's, you don't know who's behind it. Um,
Yeah, I think that was the mystery. Even when we talked, you were like, "I'm going to be anonymous." I'm like, "Ooh, we've had it
yeah.
down."
So funny story. I was, I was at a school with somebody. Um, I'm not going to go into too much detail. We were roommates essentially, and an army school, and had been at the school for a couple weeks, and we were sharing a car ride at one point, and he said something that was he said so one of the things that I one of the original jokes on the page is that I make a lot of money. I made 550K last year, which is a line I just ripped from Step Brothers. Anyway, he referenced that in the he referenced that to me, and what I thought he was telling me that he knew that I ran the page. Like I was like, wait a minute, do you like? Oh, I basically said like, oh, like I run that page. He's like, wait, what? You? So he didn't know. He just happened to say it. Um, and yeah, it was pretty funny because to me, sometimes I feel like it's if you work with me, um, it might be kind of obvious, but yeah, I thought he had figured it out, and that's why he was referencing it. But he was like, "Oh shit, no, I had no idea." And then he told me, "It's like, oh yeah, that's pretty, that's pretty cool." But like, yeah, I kind of preferred when I didn't know you read it.
Oh man,
But
damn it! It's kind of like what the fuck moments. Like the running joke used to be that it was the sergeant major of the army that was running it. There's like that whole mystique,
right,
but it like for all anyone could know, you could be a colonel or a freaking sergeant major. Yeah, it adds that you could be a fucking PFC. Like that's the cool part about it. I think that people really enjoy.
well, it's kind of like when you read a book, um, like what was that? One of those movies, the Hunger Games movies. Like people were really upset with one of the way they casted one of the characters because in their heads it didn't match what they pictured the character as. So it's kind of like that. I think when you in your head you come up with who you think the person is, and then it doesn't jive or like it's not as cool. It's never going to be as cool as you know real
Yeah,
life. Which is kind of the
side note, I hate that. Like I'm an avid book reader, and ever since I was a kid, like that is annoying as shit when you come up with something in your head. That's actually a good reference point for this. You come up with something out of a book in your head, whether it's like Harry Potter or Ernest Hemingway or any of that. You come up with these mental pictures, and then you watch the movie, and you're like, "That is not what I pictured at all. I don't even like this thing." That's a really good point.
well, and then you can never go back. Like now, like
No, you can't. You
yeah,
can't even remember the picture half the time.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Um, with your tenured experience in the military, how do you feel about the you joined a bit ago. How do you feel about the past like 4 years of it, like where it's kind of gone? Do you have high hopes for it, or do you feel we're in a slump a little bit, or
I mean, we're definitely in an interesting time right now with sweeping, pretty sweeping change we're seeing, not just in DoD, but across the government as a whole. Um, you know, some of it I think is good and needed. Don't agree with all of it. Um, we're also like not really at war right now. We were at war for a long time, and that kind of framed the military experience. Um, I mean, are you asking like specifically about something or just generally?
no, I wouldn't. I don't want to dive too deep into that. Like you said, we don't really want to discuss too much of politics on here. I just wanted your overarching view of the Army. If you just thought it was getting a little better or a little worse, not based on um, doctrine being pushed out or any of that. Like, I don't care about that necessarily. I care about like soldiers' attitudes,
Dude,
leadership, all that
I'll tell you
stuff.
this. I was, I've been to a few schools, in the last couple years, and I guess it's just a generational thing, but I do feel like the discipline aspect of the at least the Army seems to have gone like way down because I always thought of the Guard and Reserve as being, naturally we're just going to be more lax on stuff like that because we don't live it like every day. Your boss or somebody in the military could be way more important and make way more money than you on Monday morning. So it's like, what am I going to do? Like smoke this guy because his like hair is too long. But I would go on active duty and some of the just ate up like fucking shit that I saw, like haircuts and like all this, like even as a
Oh
reservist, like
yeah.
it was pissing me off. And also seeing the way these soldiers were talking to like NCOs and even officers, and like then NCOs not like correcting them and not like, you know, stamping down on them. I'm like, damn, like it's
I
different.
I have not a rebuttal necessarily, but a counterpoint to that. I got to take a quick break real quick, and then we'll get right back into it.
Cool.
Hey guys, we're going to get right back to the episode, but first, I want to talk about who brought you this episode. Our sponsors, Jump Medic. Okay. Being prepared should mean digging through a giant messy drawer of half-used band-aids, all that stuff your kids get on. It's nasty, right? The stupid box that never has anything. Jump Medic made this sleek, fully stocked first aid kit designed for real life, right? You can pack it up, you can throw it in your car. It's solid. It's this giant, big old tough box. Mine's in the mail right now. Actually, but I can't wait. This thing, whether you're hiking, traveling, or just like driving your kids to softball practice, right? You don't want to be the one digging around trying to find everything. You want to be the one that can just reach back, grab it, and get ready to go. So I really I wish I had this about 3 injuries ago. Right now, listeners can get 10% off with the code BEN10. That's BEN10 at checkout. Head on over to jumpmedic.com and be the hero with the kit, not the guy Googling how to stop bleeding fast. All right, back to the show. All right, we're back from the break. To counter that, the problem I think with discipline standards, right? Because you're seeing it from the guard side where you expect the regular army to have a little bit more standards to and discipline, which I completely agree. That's what should be expected. Just as we don't expect National Guard or Reserve to have as much because they're only doing it once a month. I think the problem became in the past, what is it, 2020, like 7 years probably. Um, a lot of the hazing, bullying stuff came down. It was like a big sweeping pendulum of like,
Mm.
there was a lot of fucked up shit going on, which there was, and they were like, to fend that off, we're gonna get rid of any type. Like, it basically gave everybody an easy button of saying, if you felt personally hurt, or if you felt someone was targeting is like the hot word for the past like 3 years, especially while I was at drill. Targeting is used constantly. You were at fault, but in the army, you kind of have to be targeted a little bit if you're fucked up. Like, if you're not meeting that standard, for lack of a better term, you will be targeted to do better until you get better or you're
I mean,
out.
it got to the point where I felt like there was more, and there's probably reasons for this, but like more discipline in the Guard and Reserve units that I was coming from than what I was seeing. And granted, a lot of these were like, fairly new people to the Army, I suppose, but I think that's part of it, and that people in the Guard and Reserve tend to skew older, either because they've done active duty, now they're coming into the Guard and Reserve, or they joined later. There's fewer people that like enlist at 17 or 18 and go straight in the Guard and Reserve. So we have fewer like super young, like immature soldiers, and I think so we deal with less of those types of people, which probably helps with that kind of stuff. But yeah, just seeing like in a school environment, like a private clearly who hasn't shaved in like 2 days standing up and like talking to the instructors and not being scared to like hide from them that they'll see him, and then nobody correct, like no NCO, like none of the instructors like even asking him, maybe you can you not ask them, like what's the deal?
It's so let's say like private didn't shave, right? So then you ask them, "Did you shave?" And they go, "Yeah, I did." You go, "Bullshit," and they're like, "I promise I shaved this morning, but there's 5 o'clock shadow. It looks like my upper lip." Like, and you're like, "No, you didn't." And then you bring it to paper or whatever, or you try to tell the first sergeant or the squad or whatever. They automatically can be like, "He's bullying me" or whatever. I did shave this morning. That's just like a random. That's kind of a hard one, but it happens all the fucking time. It's that. It's hair. People's hair is especially a big one now, especially for females, because there's so much leniency to it. You don't know what profiles people are on with their facial hair.
Well,
And
it's gotten to the point where like, and I'm not like a real ball buster, and I don't want to be like that captain who's having to correct people. It's like, but how's it gotten to me where like, am I the only one who's going to be like, what the fuck to this soldier? Um, and I don't want to be that guy because there's supposed to be a lot of other people that are like there to do that.
if the captain's correcting people, or I've seen it where colonels and shit are saying something to a soldier, like somebody fucked up somewhere, like someone should have said something. Most of the time anyway.
It's also just like like a general kind of lack of military bearing, like walking around with like in uniform with like AirPods and just like kind of looking like a shitbag and just doing stuff like I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be doing, and like but doing it like brazenly where you're not trying to hide it. And
Well, the worst part is when you say something like that, like headphones, you go up to them and you say, "Take those headphones out." They know it's wrong, and then they take them out, but then they roll their eyes at you or huff and puff about it. And you're like, "How the fuck do you find that like you're in the right here?" I think that's a new thing. I don't know if you've seen it in the civilian world where the younger and I say younger, I'm 32, but like I would say 23 and down have this bold personality where they believe they're correct a lot of times. And I don't know where the hell it came from. That's like a whole nother thing you could go on with people about parenting or the generations, what COVID, whatever. But, I think that that's a major part of it. And then the holding people to a standard of no bullying or hazing. I think bullying and hazing is a vague fucking term. And
yeah, it's tough because well, we sound like boomers with our like this generation,
sure,
but
sure.
the military, the army is like, I'm sorry, but like not hazing, but like it's built on, oh, you screwed up, like I'm going to make you go do push-ups, or I'm going to make you. That's kind of how like that's like what the army is. And then if you say, well, that you can't do that, it's kind of like you're changing the entire
Well,
like
then you
way.
let people do whatever they want.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's where I think the sergeant major of the army, his focus is getting back to sort of everyday like discipline and standards, sort of that old thing of like, well, if you let this slip, then like big things slip. And I think there probably is something to that. And I think that most people probably wouldn't admit it, but I think potentially a lot of people are actually craving more of that from the military. More like, more adherence to like stuff like that. Um, I think even among the more junior soldiers, I think they, especially if you're doing the right thing and other people aren't, but like you can't correct them or they won't listen to you. You want somebody to come in and fucking lay down the hammer and correct them.
I look at it as like a game, like a board game, right? With like Monopoly or whatever. Everyone wants sets of rules and a purpose. You want to get to the finish line and you want to do it within the parameters. Whether you believe that or not, that's how most games are played, whether it's tag or whatever. That's how games are played. And that's what most people enjoy is the purpose of it. If you don't take that, if you take away people's purpose and the restrictions of it, or you give them a purpose, a loose purpose with no restrictions, then no one knows how to get to the finish line. No one knows how to play the game, and it's anarchy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've seen that. That's probably my only real commentary is, and I don't necessarily think it's like an army thing, just a different sort of generational thing, and maybe it's because of COVID or who knows. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I was wondering, do you see that in the civilian world as much or no? Like,
I don't really work with anyone that young in the civilian world.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't really work with any like Gen Z types, at least not currently. Um, but yeah, I guess the other thing that annoys me, and maybe it's part of that, but not all these people are necessarily young, is the really that whole social media military influencer thing, where you have like these people making some pretty embarrassing content in uniform. Like it's like why did you need to post that? And if you did, like why do you have to do it in uniform? And like because that person, whether they know it or not, like they're representing you and me when they make some stupid video in their army uniform, and it's like you look like a joke. Um, you're I don't know. So that annoys me.
Yeah. Who did I talk to about that? It was the discussion was basically there's a lot of just earlier. There's a lot of veterans as well as soldiers that use the military as a crutch instead of it being in their background. It's their entire focal point. So you got, like you said, you got TikTok dancers that are in their ACUs looking like a jackass to some Chaperone song. And then you got like, I just saw it. There was a Green Beret colonel.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
Yeah, I mean, it's
like,
nuts,
what is going through that? Like, what is his end goal here? What is he? He must have like what? Like, why? I don't get
He's
it.
got 1.6 million followers. That's the
Oh,
end
does
goal.
he?
Yes,
On Instagram or
1.6
TikTok?
million on TikTok. But still like, but to that point, they're using, he could just post videos dancing and no one would bat an eye, right? You're doing it in uniform. Oh, people pay attention now because he's in uniform.
Well, and a
Same
lot of
thing.
it's probably like hate engagement, where that's probably only why I've seen it is because people have said,
True.
"What the fuck is this guy doing?" And then you follow him just so you can further hate on the new videos that he makes. So it's kind of an ingenious, it's like the rage bait. But I
Yeah.
mean, unless he's monetizing it in some way, it's like, okay, you have a lot of followers, but to what end? Okay, so what? So I don't know if
yeah,
or something.
but I think it's bigger than that. I think there's people that, I had privates when I was a drill that would post videos in, because I'm Seaburn, so they would post it in their mop gear dancing, and you're like, what the hell is that? And there's there's a billion businesses on Instagram now that all it does is highlight military, 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 as opposed to I told someone, oh, it was Freedom Bear Coffee. They don't express it that much. They have like a patriotic thing, but it's mostly just a bear with like a little USA thing over it. It's nothing bold or outlandish, but it just says veteran owned. He never posts content that's like uber, look at me, look at me. I think veterans succeeding in entrepreneurship is instrumental and awesome, but I don't think it should be your entire personality. I, maybe I'm wrong in that, but I just can't stand that. It's overbearing. It's it's just overbearing to me. It's too
Yeah, I
much.
mean, it's very much played out too. It's like now there's so many people trying to use the military or their military status or whatever they did in the military to like, sell up whatever it may be. I mean, obviously it works. A lot of people have made a lot of money doing that, but I mean, now you even see like drill sergeants getting in on this like TikTok shit where they're like the one posting the videos, and then they'll go like to their car and say, "Oh, this one private just did this. Can you believe it?" It's like, since when is that okay for you to like mock a basic training private and post it online? And like, why would you do that? I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer drill sergeants, having been one, should not ever post anything on social media. Like that whole time, unless it's like a family picture, that like that's different. They should never post anything about their job or the privates or anything, because those same people that are doing that now, when that private posts a video about you, it's the same shit. It's just the other way around. I couldn't agree more. Um, yeah. So with the account, right? You're growing and growing and growing. Obviously, where do you want to get it to? Are you wanting to get like
10 million
10 million?
followers.
Hell yeah.
I mean, yeah, that would obviously never happen. I don't have a big enough
Don't say never.
audience
It's
for
going.
that, really, which is why I've tried to like branch out. Um, yeah, I mean, it would be cool to somehow be making enough money through the page to not have to have a regular full-time job. That would be amazing. Um, so whether that, that page created, you know, a podcast, the world needs more veteran podcasts. Or, I could definitely expand it to like more, video type content. And I have actually had some pretty interesting ideas for stuff, but I just would have to work out like, you know, how am I doing that if I'm going to stay anonymous, and if I'm not going to stay anonymous, what does that mean? You know,
Do you,
so I don't
let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm one of them. The veteran podcast community, do you think that's getting a little too oversaturated?
Yeah, I do. It's not just veterans; it's like every person you meet like has a podcast.
Yeah.
And especially the veteran ones, like, yeah, a lot of them are like the Sean Ryan type, like, I was in this unit, I was a badass. Here's some war stories. Like, to me, that's not interesting. That's just heard that shit for 20 years. But even outside of that, veterans, I feel like they tend to just rehash the same topics over and over and over again, and no one's really. I said this to somebody the other day. The veteran community is like the least original community
Yes.
that I'm around. It's like, all they can do is like see what someone else is doing and then, do the same thing.
I'm guilty of it, man. Like I started doing this, and you I started doing it, and I thought it was such an original idea at first, and then you learn, like, you start going down the rabbit hole of podcast. It's all been done. There's every type of podcast you could think of has been done,
Yeah.
but it's so hard because you're like, for me, it's just I like talking to people, so I'm like, it's so fun and cathartic and type of therapy. But man, that's the hard part. Is everybody? It seems like the big ones are all about pipe hitters and these soft guys, and like me and you said, it's been done. Like I'm tired of it at this. Like I'm not tired of it. There's still some really cool stories, but a lot of the guys are repeats now, like telling their story over and over. And like we said, we're not hearing the stories of the conventional dudes or the ones that put in 20 years. They did 6 deployments, but it was like, maybe 2 of them they were kicking down doors, and 3 of them they were, doing tower guard. I think those are way more interesting to see the progress of someone make it through that struggle, because that is hard,
Yeah.
and to see where they come out at, good or
Yeah,
bad.
it seems to be largely, that type of thing, like the special operations type stuff, or then you have the whole like veteran transition space, which is like equally kind of, in my opinion, toxic. Um,
What do you mean by what's
so that transition, as in careers and stuff after the military.
oh, and then they go on and tell their story of
Well, yeah, and there's like, there's that in itself is an industry that a lot of people have monetized. Listen to me, I will tell you how to transition. If you just
yes.
listen to me, just subscribe to me, just do this.
That's their whole pitch, though. That's the weird part, is that they say they succeeded, but they're succeeding by telling you to succeed when you get out.
Right, yeah, and there's a lot of them like that. It's like, dude, you didn't do shit. You got out, you became a transition expert, but you never actually did anything else. So how do you know what you're talking about?
You wrote an ebook that says these are the 5 steps for success.
Yeah, pretty much. ChatGPT wrote it for them too.
Yes.
But I don't know if you hang out on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is an interesting.
I haven't gotten on there. I heard it's weird. It's a
Yeah,
lot of
there's no real reason. I don't know how much longer you plan on staying in the army, but if you don't really need to be on there if you're just doing the army thing. It's just it's basically like a glorified Facebook at this point, where people will post like their vacation pictures and just these like humble brags and just made up fucking stories of bullshit, and there's like very little actual business value to it at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the whole problem with the Instagram culture. Facebook is kind of, I'm getting called old now, because when I reference Facebook, everybody younger than me is like, nobody uses Facebook. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, Facebook is actually pretty mild now. It's not even that bad. It's either my old parents, friends talking, which is like I'll just ignore, or just true humble pictures of like my friends' families and stuff. And you're like, that's cool.
Right, but
But then,
that's the appropriate platform to post family pictures. LinkedIn, it's like, why are you telling me?
yeah, why are you putting that? It's for jobs,
Right,
right?
but
LinkedIn.
people have now taken it and they're trying to like combine, like essentially make it a Facebook, and then as long as you like somehow at the end of your, oh, we took the family to St. John's this weekend, somehow in one sentence they'll tie it back and try and make it like related to business, like, thank you so much to my company at Starbucks for giving me the time off, and basically just a way to suck up and like brag that you took a vacation, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's that's nuts.
it's
What do you plan on doing the full time while you're in? Like, I wanted to ask that too. I never known about that. Do you do 20 in the Guard and then you get your retirement at 50 or 60 or something, or how does that work?
yeah, if you do 20, you you get you can get a pension that'll kick in at yeah, like retirement age essentially, which is one of my pet peeves, because I never understood. So on active duty, if you do 20 years, you retire, you collect immediately, right? Your retirement.
Yes.
On for some reason in the Guard or the reserve, you have to wait and collect like like at 60 years old, and it's like my pension as a 20-year whatever major will not be remotely the same. It'll be way less than a 20-year active duty major, because it's based on number of days, like in uniform, based on points. So I'm going to have a much, like, my version of a retirement will be much smaller than yours. But for some reason, it's like, and I've never seen a reason why. They're like, oh, well, you have to wait till this age to collect it. There's no like parity of process there. It's just kind of like, well, fuck you. Like, that's the way it is. And I've never seen a reason for that. And to me, it's important because like I'm at that I'm like 12 or something years in, where it's like, okay, either I can stay in or I can get out. But if I knew I could collect retirement immediately at 20, like that would definitely keep me in. Now I have to do 20 or more, and like maybe if I'm still alive at 60, I'll get some shitty pension at that age. So it would be a recruit or a retention tool to keep people in.
True. That's a good argument for retention, would be to keep National Guard Reserve soldiers in for that long. That's probably why they have such a high turnover rate. It seems like a lot of Guard Reserve people just do their 6 years and get out, or whatever it is. I think it's 6-8 years, get out. Whereas active guys, that's all we talk about. Because I have a year left in the Army, and I plan on getting out. And every single person is like, I'll be at 11 years when I get out, and they're all like, "Why just stay the 20? Stay the 20." But then it's also guys that are at 18 years, have 2 divorces and terrible lifestyles. That not all of them, but a lot of them. And you're like, why would I stay in at this point? But I definitely get that retention point. That's good.
I mean, there is some jealousy on my portion. Like, I'll see like relatively young dudes. I worked for a colonel in 06 who got out. I think he was like, I don't know, 45 or something, and retired after 20 years or whatever it was, and still a pretty young guy, has this great military pension now. Like, his regular job, he essentially has double salaries. Like, that's pretty cool. He probably has disability and things as well, so I'm sure he's doing pretty nice. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I've never seen a justification for why we can't collect immediately. I don't know. So to answer your question, I'm not really sure if I'm gonna. I feel like I have to stay in just really for the meme page, the content. I'm like not even joking. Like, if I got out, I just become one of those veterans who's still trying to make like content from the jokes that were like relevant when I was in, but I don't have my finger on the pulse of like what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Think
I'll
about
do it for the memes.
Do it for the memes. There's like dudes that have got out, they don't even know about IPSA or anything. Like, trying to explain all that that's just a minute part of the Army, but to explain that to them would just be mind-boggling. So yeah, that would be hard. Jesus.
Yeah. I don't know. And my big thing is, and this is what's nice about particularly the reserve, to a lesser extent the Guard, you can very much, like, I don't care about being a battalion commander or a brigade commander or any of that. I just want to do interesting stuff in the Army, like, because I don't need the Army. I could get by without my like drill paycheck or whatever. So I just want to do stuff that interests me. And if I'm not doing that anymore, then like I'm going to get out. And so like to be a commander where you're just sort of, for the most part, pushing down and pushing up slide decks, and are we ready on these metrics? Like, that doesn't sound very fun or fulfilling to me. So like what I look for is so right now I'm doing civil affairs. I don't know how much longer I can do that, but I want to get into like IO, information operations. Maybe I'll get that functional area. The functional area stuff opens up interesting opportunities. So yeah, I don't know. I'll just be one of those like random like floater majors or 05 that kind of like pops up as, this is our like battalion like IO guy, and no one really knows what he does. And so I see these. So I don't know if you've ever been at or like worked at the Pentagon, but those types of guys would show up and do their thing and then dip out. I was like, that's pretty cool. That would keep me in. Also at the Pentagon, like, the Pentagon's such an interesting environment because it's very like brass heavy. Everyone there is pretty high ranking, and I see so many fucked up like haircuts and stuff like that, but there's like no one there to correct it because I guess everyone feels like, well, you don't have like those low mid-level NCOs that would normally be the ones doing it, so it's kind of like not my problem type thing, I guess. And I've never seen so many fucked up haircuts as like in the Pentagon. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's, first of all, civil affairs would be bad. I didn't know you were in that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think for in the past 5 years, I had a couple opportunities to do some cool shit, and one was at the White House, one was with civil affairs, and there was some other stuff. But I, due to family stuff, I couldn't really do it. But now I'm a different man. Now I've changed. I'm like, I found that family is truly the calling. That's family first always. But if I were a younger, spry lad with time on my hands, for sure, all that kind of stuff is so badass to do. I think that's what keeps quite a few people in of doing the crazy stuff, whether it's CAG or SEALs or even just Rangers and stuff, civil affairs guys. They got a pretty good job set up. But
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely primarily a younger man's, you know, I mean, you said you're 32. I mean, I think that's like the average age of guys who go to selections, somewhere around there for SF. But yeah, it's just what I look for now is like there's people that are always going to be better than me physically and better shooters and better at kicking indoors and shit. But I want to find the areas where you know intellectually like my civilian skill sets I can apply in military environments and actually add like real value versus just like sort of being another guy holding a gun. And a lot of those are more like positions at different agencies or the Pentagon or different sort of assignments. And so that's probably what I'll end up doing if I can.
yeah.
Um,
Well, Fratty Guard, we got to talk about a lot. This was like a lot of random stuff, but I really enjoyed it. So,
yeah, it's always good to pour my heart out on podcast. I probably could have talked about the page some more, I assume, but yeah, follow the page. The page is
yes, I'll have it in the links. It'll be right below us on, the Instagram Fratty Guard. It's right there.
who's kind of like your general followership of your
I
page.
don't know. It's so spread out now, and I've grown a bit to where my following base isn't that big, but my listening base is getting bigger. So it's like, it's probably, I think the average is like, what was it, 18 to 42? Because like that
Pretty good.
18 to 31 or whatever, and then 31 to 45. Those are my big ones. It's primarily probably military people, just because it starts with friends, right? It grows from there. Um, we're kind of branching out and stuff, but that's mostly who it is.
Good for you, man. I love it. I think it's awesome, and appreciate you having me on. I hear my dog fucking barking at something, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go deal with
No,
that.
I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on, and thank you guys for listening.
All right,
We'll see you
thank
next
you.
time.
All
See you,
right,
man. We
man.
did it.